Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video. She's cheating on me, right? I, a 26-year-old guy, have been with my girlfriend, a 26-year-old female, for 5 years. We lived together, and I thought we were content. But she's been more distant recently. We're not having as much as we used to. She has been increasingly irritated and grumpy. She locks the bedroom door while she's on her computer, saying to be working, even if it's 10 p.m., and she's been sneaky about where she's been going when she's out late. Several times a week, she leaves the home all day and doesn't return until 9 p.m. or even 2 a.m. She makes excuses such as hanging out with friends, working late, at her workplace when she is not working from home, or doing hobbies/sports. I chanced to come upon her GPS history, and I noticed that she had visited a dorm at a nearby institution several times in the previous few months and was returning home late. Therefore, this is where she must have been all those times she returned home late. I know she has pals in the neighborhood who attend the local schools, so I'm not sure what she's doing there, but it's clearly not working late. I adore her, and I'm saddened. I'm not sure how to address her, and I'm not sure if I'm leaping to conclusions, but I'm not insane, am I? Is she definitely cheating on me? Update: I made this post around 2 weeks ago. My 5-year girlfriend was spending late evenings ostensibly at work or with friends, was more irritated than normal, had reduced desire, and was making frequent late-night excursions to a dorm at a nearby university. I had a feeling she was cheating, but I couldn't bring myself to believe it, since she is absolutely the kindest person on the planet. The majority of those who replied claimed she was most certainly cheating and that I should leave her. My OP didn't receive much attention, but I thought I'd provide an update nonetheless, since it took an unexpected path. TW. Mental illness, disordered food. I decided to give my girlfriend the benefit of the doubt and asked her directly where she was going the following time she returned home late. She informed me that she was working late. I didn't pull up the GPS right away. Instead, I urged her to show me that she was working. She replied okay, but she wanted to know what was going on. I told her I was really uncomfortable with her working so late, and that if she was truly working as late as she said, she should definitely leave her job since such hours were insane. She then began weeping and apologizing, explaining that she was really anxious since she was in a new profession and felt so far behind everyone else at her work. She was working really long hours simply to learn how to code. She never had an engineering job or degree before this job, so her work was actually really difficult for her. She connected onto her work computer remotely and gave me her commit history, as well as log files from 10 a.m. to midnight, with a few hours missing. I immediately felt horrible for not believing her, despite the fact that she had never given me cause not to believe her before. She explained that, in addition to not knowing how to code, she felt even more lost because of her ADHD, which made it difficult for her to focus, which was why there were sometimes long gaps where no code was run. But she showed me her search history, which showed she was browsing the internet or watching Netflix during those gaps. I felt incredibly bad the whole time, while I could see my girlfriend was ashamed to have to disclose all of this and show me her search history, which included searches she didn't want me to see. I began to feel in command, which didn't help when I brought up her GPS history, which often showed her at a university dorm. She was perplexed as to how I knew she was parking at a dorm, since that was all it was. Her job apparently required her to do tests at a nearby university lab, since they had equipment that her office did not, and the nearest guest parking was directly next one of the dormitories. She proved this by logging into the university lab computer and showing me her time-stamped data. The final thing I couldn't figure out was why she would remain at the dorm so late instead of returning home. This was the most difficult confession for her to make, but when I told her I could only infer she was cheating on me, she eventually admitted it. She was apparently going to the university's campus cafeteria, turning on Netflix and binge eating for hours. I knew she'd struggled with disordered eating in the past, but I had no idea how bad it was. She sobbed, I sobbed. I embraced her and apologized for my reservations about her. She apologized for being aloof and for slipping out to binge eat rather than returning home. She told me she was upset because she wasn't where she wanted to be in life and felt like there was nothing she loved doing, but the prospect of looking for a new career was stressful. But so was the prospect of continuing at her present position and being burdened by the fear of being dismissed for coding difficulties, and she thought that the only way she could cope was to eat. Overall, we have a lot of work to do, but I want to be a source of support for her, not someone she is embarrassed to come home to. I'm hoping that one day she'll be able to view herself as the wonderful person I know she is. Story 2. Girlfriend cheats with my boss. I was working in a packing factory around 22 years ago, and I had recently concluded a 4-year long-term relationship in which I had been cheated on. I kicked her to the curb and began dating again. At work, I met this newly divorced female who worked as the receptionist. We began seeing one another because she was attractive and a lot of fun. Everything was going swimmingly, but I wasn't committed to anything long-term. She dropped clues about moving in together, and I'd never be able to pull the trigger with her. Something wasn't right. We were very busy at work, and I volunteered for as much OT as I could to supplement my income. I worked in the nights, and my staff was tiny and close-knit. One of my guys told me one night that he observed my boss's automobile at my girlfriend's apartment complex. I knew something was wrong since he lived around 30 miles away. I had worked for him the previous weekend, and my girlfriend had gone to the casino that weekend since I had been called in. Lol. I had a feeling something was wrong. So I approached her door and knocked. She inquired, "Who is it?" "It's me, sweetie," I said. "I came over to check how you were doing." I just had a few moments. He was nowhere to be seen when she opened the door and allowed me in. I motioned for him to go, and he did. I inquired as to what was going on and how long it would take. They claimed to have been up for around 2 weeks. My employer, who had just divorced, was having a terrible time with his ex. Up until this time, I had felt terrible for him. I said that I didn't like the high school nonsense and that it didn't matter whether he saw her. If he wanted to turn, he could have simply informed me, and we could have dealt with it as adults. He apologized, and I told him I didn't want this to interfere with my OT. I was still eager to work as many weekends as possible. He said, "No problem." I never recognized the presence of my soon-to-be ex. She instantly vanished and became deafeningly silent in my presence. She continued to attempt to catch my attention and apologize, but I never replied in any manner. My boss had been seeing this gorgeous young lady around 20 who worked at the facility between his ugly divorce and my girlfriend. She asked me what was going on a few days later at work. When I informed her what had occurred, she was upset. I told her that it was a good thing she found out now before things became worse. She suggested we go out and annoy them. That's what we did, and she was a weirdo. I had a great time with her. One of my employees asked me how my date went one day in the workplace while my supervisor was present. I told him it was fantastic and maybe the finest exchange I'd ever done. There are no regrets. My employer just stood up and went away. We didn't talk about anything other than business for approximately 2 weeks. We marketed employee sales to workers on Fridays. Employees would go to the receptionist, pay, and get a ticket to come to us, where we would serve them their meal. My supervisor remarked, "Hey, I'm going to take these 10 boxes, 10 pounds, and pay for them on the way out." The exit road passed straight by the receptionist's office, allowing me to observe whether he had paid or not. He didn't do it. I drove right by. Because he seemed to have made this choice on the spur of the moment, I phoned the plant accountant and asked him to check the cash box and the tickets to see whether there were any for my boss. I was afraid my ex would simply fill out the tickets and have them ready, and we wouldn't be able to capture her till the box was empty. Because no citations had been issued, he just got in trouble and was finally dismissed. Later, she was being questioned, and she seemed to be short in the cash box, but she couldn't be sure. As a result, someone came in and paid for dinner with a $100 note. They knew she was skimming because there were no major orders done the remainder of the day that would have needed $100 as change, and because the $100 bill was gone from the box at the end of the day. She was dismissed for her actions. As department supervisor, I took over for boss. I got rid of a cheating girlfriend, had crazy with his ex and got to boast about it in front of him, got rid of the same dishonest employer, fired 2 thieves, earned a promotion, and yet got to keep my OT. Things don't always go as planned for me, but it was priceless.